All right, wonderful. Well, happy Wednesday, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We're super excited tonight. We have our special guest with us who's going to share some of her wonderful and empowering knowledge with all of you. So if you're joining in, please be sure to ask your questions. I will try to monitor the chat to make sure that we get them answered for you. If not, we'll pop back on later and make sure you get your questions answered. But this is Kaitlyn. She is joining us tonight. We're going to kind of dive into some body positivity and learning to love your body through all of the seasons, because as we go through life, we go through definitely different seasons, and having love and appreciation for our body in all of those seasons is so important. So thank you for joining us tonight, Kaitlyn. We are so excited to have you in our space for a little while.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I am really excited to talk to everybody about body positivity. It's huge.
No, I agree. How did you get into this space?
So I have, honestly, I mean, full transparency, I have always myself struggled with loving my body. And it has taken me quite some time to get there. And, with that being said, I have always had an athletic background. And then in 2019, I decided to venture into the bodybuilding competition world. And it was an awesome experience. But unfortunately, at the time, my competition was supposed to be March of 2020. And that is when COVID hit. So
yeah.
I was about 3 weeks out of my first competition, and they, put the halt on all of that. So I know, I'm sure you could imagine, it was quite the process to get myself back in a healthy state, not only just physically, but mentally. And that was kind of what, fueled the fire for me to want to be able to share this with other people and help them through similar, or if not the same, scenarios, because it was very, very, very mentally daunting for me. Like, it was probably one of the more difficult things I've experienced mentally. And for some people that have never gone through a bodybuilding competition like that or prep like that before, might not really understand it. But the body and the mind, like, it's so crazy how they work so simultaneously. Like, your mind controls so much, and it is honestly one of the craziest things to think about. But just having to train my mind to know that I can't always be stage lean. And for reference, at the time, I had to drop down from 140 pounds to I ended at 120, but I still had a little bit more to go before I stepped on stage. And honestly, I couldn't even tell you the last time I weighed that low of a number in my life. But I, had to learn to love my body from point A to point B and back again. And it's tough seeing seeing all the changes. It's an amazing process, and it's really cool to experience it. But having to sit there, and remind yourself, like, you won't look this way forever. And you have to accept that, and you have to be okay with that, and you have to make the adjustments that you need to make in your diet and your everyday, and everything else that goes along with it, in order to even continue. Because if if your mind gets the best of you in those scenarios, like, it takes a toll on your body physically, with triggering the stress response and everything else along those lines. Like, it all works together. And that is honestly that's probably what really got me, like, going in this entire thing.
No, I can totally relate. I don't know if Louisa told you, but I compete too. I competed twice in 2020 and really hurt myself, so I haven't been back on stage since. But like taking your body from something that literally, like, you look like a statue, like you could have been
Mhm.
carved out of marble, and going back to being ordinary is challenging. And
Yeah.
I think even people that don't step on the bodybuilding stage have gone through some dieting phase or
Mm.
were at some point really happy with the condition of their body. And then
Mhm.
it's like they spend the rest of their life chasing that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep, and it's so true, and, it's funny because I'm 28, so I've been out of high school for about 11 years now, but it's so funny to me to look back at, like, pictures and be like, "I wish I looked like that." But then I have to stop and remind myself, like, "No, Kaitlyn, like, you were a teenager. Like, your body was totally different because that was your teenage body. Like,
Right.
that was you when you were a teenager." Like, you were young, you were a kid, plain and simple, and, now as an adult, it's like, you have to learn to accept your body as you get older, and it's making the changes that it's adapting to the world around us, it's adapting to what we need in that moment, in this time in our life. So it's so funny to just even think about that because people are always like, "Oh, I wish I could look the way I did when I was, however old." And it's like, yeah, that would be great, but your body, you know, was sustainable then for you in that time, and now it needs to be here for you in the way that it is in current time. So it's like, yeah, I mean, things slow down as you get older, that's how the body works. Like, things slow down, but you have one body and it's your job to take care of it. And you're the only you in this world. Like, you are the only version of you, and you can change that. And it's it's a beautiful thing. It really is. Like, just thinking about it, like, it is a beautiful thing knowing that, like, we have the ability to change our body, like, physically in a healthy way, and having it work for us to keep us alive and, help us get through our day to day and all those challenges that we face. Like, it's, yeah, it's honestly, it's great. Like,
Yeah, no, it totally is. And like, I think women's bodies, especially, are just incredible because, like you said, you have a teenage body and it's doing the things that a teenage body is supposed to do. But then you get older and you move through, if you get married and you have kids and your body moves through that stage, and you go through the process of creating a human that you're hosting inside of yourself, to bring out into the world. And then you have to be the mom. And that doesn't necessarily mean that your body is ruined or anything from the process of making a child. It's just different. And of course, there's always things that we can strive to change. But I think a lot of it is like, what I see is that there's so much of our own value that is attached to the stupid number on the scale and to our appearance. And
mhm,
that's not what gives us validation at all.
yeah, absolutely. And I completely agree with that because I feel like a lot of the time people, people think like, they see somebody who's, successful or just exudes confidence, and their first reaction might be, "Oh, well, they were just born naturally confident." Like, like,
Right.
I wish that was a thing, but it's not. And it's something that a lot of people tend to just not even think about. But I kind of like to think of self-confidence almost like a muscle,
Mhm.
because you can strengthen your self-confidence through practice, through repetition, through positive reinforcement, the same way you can strengthen any other muscle in your body. And that kind of goes back to the whole thing about people not being born naturally confident. Like, we have to work at that. it's a process. You can build up your confidence over time if you think about it as a muscle. Like, you have to continually put in the time to build your muscles, just like you have to put in the time and energy to becoming more confident in yourself. And that kind of, leads into mindset. Like, your mindset has so much to do with it. It's crazy. And that sometimes tends to scare people, but the best news about all of that is that you can learn confidence. You can learn to train your mind to squash the negative self-talk. There's so many different things that we can do to, baby steps, just nothing, like, you don't have to jump from 0 to 100 in one day, but baby steps, like every single day, there's something you can do, kind of like they say, just to be 1% better. And, eventually it's like, you'll wake up one day and be like, wow, like, you'll see things so much more clear and so much differently in a good way, in a positive way. And that is like, that's what I love, being able to like express that to people and help them get there, because it's an amazing feeling. And I feel like now, as of like the last few years at least, something I've noticed has been really big on social media. And it has turned into, like, social media is great for many reasons. We can connect this way and everything like that, but it's also has a lot of negative side effects to it. Like, I've personally even found myself scrolling Instagram, for like doom scrolling for hours, and seeing people that I don't know if they're even being authentic. I don't even know if they're editing their photos, or if they're making certain parts of their bodies look bigger, like making their butts look bigger, things like that. Like, we don't know what actually is going into those photos, but yet we're on the other end, we're on the receiving end, and we're just picking ourselves apart left and right because we don't look like that. And they have all of these, followers and all of these likes and all the things, but yet here we are, and we're essentially like lowering our self-worth because we're not getting that external validation. And again, kind of goes back to the whole mindset thing. Like, we shouldn't have to have that external validation. We should be able to wake up and know and be confident enough in ourselves to say, I don't care if my butt doesn't look fake, like, I don't care if I don't have this many followers. I don't care X, Y, and Z. Like, I know my worth and I know what I have to offer, and that's enough.
No, that's so true. The validation should come from within, but I know that's something that a lot of women struggle with. So going back to, like you said, baby steps, which is essential, and that's something we preach like all the time inside of our coaching practices, because you can't be all or nothing. It's baby steps and striving to be, like you said, 1% better than the day before. What would be a good baby step that someone could implement, to help them in shifting their mindset a little bit?
Yeah. So definitely, like, kind of first and foremost is just knowing that we cannot heal or transform ourselves from a place of judgment. And that's probably one of the bigger challenges that people tend to, get stuck on, is, you have to be open. You have to have an open mind when you go into wanting to change something about yourself. Like, you can't go into it in a negative light. And, kind of jumping back really quick to the whole comparison thing, like, when we compare ourselves to other people, we're comparing what we feel is our worst self to how we're perceiving someone's best self. So it's like they may, like, that person that we are, thinking has everything that we could ever imagine, they may be feeling the same exact way inside and we have no idea. But what we're looking at is what we perceive to be the best version of them. And that might not even be true, So with that being said, like, a baby step would be just to simply, I say simply, but it's not really, simple, but like, squash the negative self-talk. That's the biggest thing. It's squashing the negative self-talk. And I would be lying if I said I don't do it to myself, every now and then, because I do. We all do. We're human. It's part of our nature. It's just what happens. But we can control that. We can recognize it when it does happen. And a lot of, like, what I tell my clients is daily affirmations. Those are great.
Oh, yeah.
You can read, like, you can get a daily affirmations book. They have apps that will pop up, give you a notification every day. I actually have it, and it's always nice to see something positive come across my screen in the morning. There's podcasts. There's like a podcast I used to listen to on the way to work every morning, and it wasn't actually like somebody talking. It was more so like a bunch of clips, like how to have like a good morning type of thing, to, just put you in the right state of mind. And journaling. Journaling is, a big thing. And what I actually recently did with one of my clients who wasn't too big into journaling is I had her write down between 3 to 5 positive things that happened that day. And so we had her start with, 3 to 5 positive things in the day. So then that way she had the chance to look back whenever she started, feeling a little crummy about herself, or, just having a bad day. She could look back and be like, okay, so the entire day didn't suck. It was just this one moment, but these are the good things that happened today. And, as she got into the routine of doing that, I started also having her write down negative thoughts that popped in her head. But with those negative thoughts, it's almost like questioning your inner critic. Like, you write down that negative thought, but then you also are kind of like, where's the evidence in that? Like, you're questioning yourself, like, okay, well, say, for example, like something that you've been telling yourself that's just, hurting your self-confidence. You write it down, but then you also write down the factual evidence next to it. No opinions, like no opinions, like the actual factual evidence that goes along with it. And you'll be surprised to know that, like, majority, if not all of our negative self-talk that we have going on in our minds, it's just our opinion of ourselves. Like, there is no factual evidence of these things. So it's kind of almost like a wake-up call. Like, you're writing down all these things, you're seeing it on paper, and you're like, wow, like, I really think that about myself. Like, why do I think that? And you go to fact check yourself, but you can't.
Right.
Because there's nothing, there's no factual evidence there. And that's actually been something that has helped a few of my clients as of recently, was being able to look at that and be like, okay, well, that's not true. That's not true. It's just something that I'm thinking. And then you can make the change. Again, that happens over time. It's not something that you just do it one time and you're like, oh, great, I feel awesome. Never again. No more negative thoughts. Like, that's not how that works. But it is definitely a baby step. And, with that baby step as well, one thing I like to stress is practicing authenticity. And this isn't even something that, like, requires pen and paper or anything. It's simply just learning to not hide the parts of you that you feel are messy or imperfect, embarrassing, shameful, anything. Learn to embrace those things. Because kind of jumping back to what I said in the beginning, like we are the only version of ourselves. There's only one of us. You know, there's only one Clarissa. There's only one Kaitlyn. Like there's no, we are who we are for a reason. Everybody, I truly believe everybody is here for a reason. And you are created the way that you were created for a reason. I mean, it would be really weird if we all walked around looking exactly the same. So it'd be very, very strange. So,
Okay.
you know, we are all different, and sometimes it's really interesting to see, because like something that you may think is that you may dislike about yourself, somebody else could absolutely love about you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure, you know, you've had people say things to you before where you're like, really? Like you like that about me? Like,
Right.
I actually gotta eat
that. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So it's nice to hear, you know, when people, not trying to say like you need the external validation there, but it's also, once we're able to embrace those things about ourselves, it allows us to open up the door to ignore the fear of judgment of others. You know, and a lot of the time, like, yes, we are our own worst critics, but a lot of it also comes from fear of other people judging us. But in reality, like if somebody is judging you, it says nothing about you. It says a whole lot about them. Like it says a lot about who they are, you know, versus who you are. Because at the end of the day, like the only person that you need to please is yourself. And being able to accept yourself for who you are and, you know, embrace those things that you may not like. Like once you're able to do that and that confidence within you starts to come out, everything changes. And it's so amazing to see, because once those things change, like the type of people that you surround yourself with will change. The energy that you give off changes. The way that people see you changes, because you're presenting yourself. You're showing up in a more positive, happy, confident, comfortable way. And people will be more engaged with you and more likely, you know, to, like in a work setting, like they'll be, you know, more likely to give you more tasks and things like that, because they know that you're confident enough. Like you can do it, even if you don't have any experience in it. As long as you're confident, you'll learn, you'll figure it out.
Yeah, that's so true. You do, you show up differently.
Yeah,
for sure. We've got quite a few on Facebook. If you ladies have questions, go ahead and pop them into the chat. Carrie did say, it sounds kind of like a suggestion, and correct me if I'm wrong, Carrie, but she said post good things on a pad, like a sticky note, and then put them around the house in different places.
Yes, that is, I actually do that myself. So I love that she said that, because that is one of the things that I also, you know, will give to my clients to do. And I call those anchors. You know, those are the anchors. Like those are, in the way that I use it, is like reminding you why you're doing what you're doing. You know, and I had a lot of these up during my prep as well. Like on my mirror and everything, I had sticky notes saying like, you know, you're beautiful, like you got this, and things like that. Just positive reinforcement for myself, essentially. And just, you know, it is nice. I mean, like you go to the bathroom in the morning, you look in the mirror, and that's the first thing you see. Like it's a great way to start your day.
Yeah, no, it is. I haven't done the positive things on the sticky notes, but I find them very helpful. Like when you're changing your routine, to put the sticky notes somewhere in an area that's going to tie into whatever it is that you're trying to change.
Exactly. Yeah. And one of my, one of my clients, my current clients, as far as the positive things that I had her list out during the day, as far as that goes, what she does is she writes them, as they pop up throughout the day, but she'll have it in front of her on her desk at work, because that's when she tends to get the most stressed out. And, that's when her inner critic starts to roll in heavily. So she'll have it visible. So that way she can see, like, okay, I got this. Things are great. I'll figure it out. There's positive in the day.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's such a great idea. All right, ladies, I'll give you another second here. If anybody has questions, go ahead and pop them into the chat. Thank you all for watching. There's quite a few of you on here tonight. So yay, we had a good turnout. Yeah, no, but I think there's so many different ways that you can start to reframe that negative voice that we all have inside. And I mean, I don't believe we can ever fully get rid of it. I mean, I know some very high level individuals, and it still comes up for them from time to time too. But it's like you said, it's reframing it and changing it, and over time working on those baby steps.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's exactly that. Like, we're human. We're bound to have thoughts like that. And that's another thing is, not to shame yourself and not to beat yourself up about it, but to, notice it, acknowledge it, and work to change it. And because of the worst thing that we could do for ourselves is you have the negative thoughts, and then you're like, oh my gosh, why is this happening? And then it just becomes a spiral. And a spiral, not in a good way.
Right.
And so it's like,
spirals aren't in a good way.
Right, exactly. So it's like, you don't want to go down that rabbit hole. So you just have to remember to give yourself grace, but also know that you do have the chance, and you do have the opportunity to change the way that those thoughts enter into your head.
Right. Absolutely. All right. Well, we don't have any other questions on Facebook, so we can go ahead and wrap it up. I do want to thank you again for coming in and joining us. I found this tremendously valuable. I feel that everyone else did on Facebook, or they can still be watching. So thank you. Thank you again so much. If we get any other questions, I'll be sure to forward them to you. But if the ladies are interested, where can they find you?
Yeah, so so first off, thank you for having me. And thank you everybody for watching. That makes me really happy. But yeah, so I have a Facebook and Instagram page that they can go to. Both are Even If Life Coaching, and it's even if life coaching. Okay. So definitely reach out to me there. If there's any questions or they want any more information, I'm open to share. And yeah.
Wonderful. So good. So both Facebook and Instagram under Even If Life Coaching?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing part of your Wednesday night with us, Kaitlyn. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. And thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you everyone on Facebook that joined us. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening, and we'll see you all on Monday.
Yes. All right. Bye.
Thank you.